So I'm going to record this, and in Montgomery, then we're going to end up with YouTube. We'll post it.
If
So,
that's okay.
yeah, so that's a deal. So
You better tell them why we don't have a screen and stuff.
well, would you believe, okay, we have a screen here. The screen works. The projector broke, which is overheat. So I don't know. We have a projector problem, but anyhow, that's the way it goes. Okay, let me see if I can pop up here. So we're going to record. I'm going to do a. Okay, let me go back to. Where's my slides?
Right. Right there. Right, those two at the bottom. Right there. That's mine, and yours at the top, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, good. Now let me get into my Zoom thing. I'm not used to your computer, so I have to get back into Zoom. I'm going to screen share. There's a second. Okay, let's get underway. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance prayer. We'll talk briefly about the hydroponics project, a little bit about the fundraiser, some upcoming meetings, and a real program will be on rainwater collection, and then finally the 4-way test. So let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
and to the Texas flag.
Honor
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Anyone like to do a short prayer? No? Okay. Well, thank you for protecting us from the cold, and we're looking for life better. Okay, these are some upcoming meetings. Today we'll talk about the rainwater collection. This Friday, we're going to have a presentation check at the Children's Advocacy Center. Our club has donated $2,000 apiece to 5 different causes. And we just had the CASA. Now we're going to do Children's Advocacy. Nothing better doing Friday at 1 o'clock. I think April's going to be there. But if you're in the neighborhood, drop on by. And it's going to be the presentation check. But the real agenda of that is to talk a bit about, the Rotary Club, but the real agenda is for the cause to talk about, this is how we're going to use this $2,000. It's not going to go into general funds. They're going to talk about what they're going to do. How does $2,000 make a difference in the mission? I mean, it's not like it's going to, save the world or something like that, but we do what we can do. And then we want to have a fundraiser event to follow, and that's how we get to serious money. Goal of our fundraisers, I think my personal goal is for us like $25,000 or $30,000, and between Labor Day, mostly Labor Day and 4th of July. And we'll talk more about that. Let's see here. We'll have there's several possibilities for next week. Club Assembly will talk about the fundraiser event. We're going to talk about the hydroponics project. We're probably going to do is to have a program at this is another offsite. Well, it might be a Zoom thing too, but it'll be on the Bastrop Foundry. A big deal, closely held secret, kind of like Texas Rain. It's there, it's a big deal, no one knows about it. What we're going to do is have them make things for us. And we like to encourage local businesses, and it's kind of a big deal. So one of the things from Montgomery and I are going to do a visit. What we're going to do is have them make things. Like for a fundraiser event, which is going to primarily include a competitive barbecue, a national level competitive barbecue. These guys really get off on my barbecue. My brisket is better than your brisket, that kind of thing. And they take it seriously. So what we do is have custom awards and trophies made. So we're going to be talking with people at the foundry. It's the Heart of Texas Foundry. They're taking all this stuff, So they're not doing plant tours. It's a cool place. It truly is.
Mhm.
So there'll be just a couple of us going, but probably on the 30th, it'll be the Foundry talking about what they do. But it's cool stuff. And then so we'll do hydroponics, which is another good project. It's like a way of doing innovative garden. We'll this BISD school bonds proposal, the Bastrop Library, we'll talk on the 20th, personal disaster preparedness, which is Christy, Files, myself. If we learned anything from the last cold, things can go wrong, but the government can do certain things, but there's things we can do individually. And then Austin Greenport. There's a kind of little introduction to what we're talking about today, which is rainwater collection for homes and communities. Water is essential for life. I'm going to send it on my slides, of course. This is a link, but there's Rotary areas of focus, and one of them is water and sanitation. It's a huge deal. Without water, people cease to exist. So this is a Rotary area focus. So what we're doing with this program and a follow-on is addressing that Rotary area focus. So water, sanitation are necessary, and if people have access to clean water and sanitation, it's a key to happiness. So anyhow, the thing again for a project would be it's a source of clean water. The traditional thing when you think about water, including in the Rotary, drill a hole in the ground and you get water. You may or may not get water. The chance of getting potable water straight out of the ground is nigh onto zero. Like for example, out at our ranch, which we're going to do a tour of with David, we spend like $14,000 a well. Now we have the money for this. People in Africa and Mexico don't get $14,000 for a well, and involves specialized equipment. And we get out of that water it's undrinkable. So we have to do extensive treatment, get rid of sulfur iron. Again, we can afford it in our case, but it turns out on the roof of the building, who knew God provides a lot of water from the rain. So what we're going to do is use my thing as a pilot, and if we can do it in Flatonia, Texas, we can do it in Africa or Mexico or whatever. So that's kind of the thing. So we use this as kind of a model. So as David offered to be a consultant, we have the Indians like Brian. Brian is my nephew, and when it comes down to we need to do this, that's where Brian's job to do this. So basically, the nice thing too about rainwater collection, the cost is not terribly high. You have to do it right.
Yes.
There's definitely techniques. And David's going to the tours. What Dave's going to talk about. There's ways to go right, ways to go wrong, but you can do local labor. Like for example, in Mexico, we've helped with, and David Johnson's not online, but we've done metal roofs in Mexico. It turns out a metal roof, when water falls on it, put it into gutters and you do certain things, and life is good. So we can have local labor actually do this, as opposed to gringo sweeping in. We're here to save you. So that's kind of nice. So again, we're envisioning a pilot project at our Kovar Ranch and using advice. There's some calculations I did. Now, David, this is in theory. I have a 3,200 square foot, triple wide house up there with a metal roof and gutters and downspouts. So according to my little calculations, I mean, Texas is not terribly rainy, not terribly dry, it's sort of medium. But according to my calculations, you get 76,000 gallons of water falls from rain alone. Kind of ebbs and flows. But even when it's dry, when it rains in Texas, it pours. And so we're going to have storage contains. But so we're using this example of a place where we can do this. So that would be kind of the deal. So as a data point, Janet's in my house, we use around 2,000 gallons for household use, not for irrigation, but for household use. So in this case, we could use this easily. If all we did was collect the water, we'd end up with almost certainly better, guaranteed to be better than the well water. That's a given. The worst we could do is take plain old rainwater, better than what we get in the ground. So we want to do this as a pet pilot. So that's where we're going to be doing this as a project. So that's kind of the deal. All right, now let me shift over to get out of here. I'm going to minimize this. Pop up, which is which is you right here.
The other one below it, yeah.
Over to you.
I change. Hello, I'm David Schraub, and let's see if we
We're
can,
gonna share the slide, by the way.
okay, yeah, so I can go to full screen here.
You can take your mask off, David.
Oh, okay. Since I'm here. I can use my glasses here so I can see. All right. Well, this was a one that I've done quite some time ago. I was using this. I have a lot more slides that I have been adding, but this is a basic one that we use. We've been here since 2009. All Texas investors that we started this in 2009. And we took this building, it was just a shell of a building with gutters, and we built all the infrastructure here at Texas Rain. Y'all are all welcome to come by here anytime, just let me know, and you can have a personal tour. We do bottle rainwater, and rainwater is naturally distilled soft water, so it's very clean to begin with. People say, "Ooh, yuck, rainwater," and I said, "You'd rather drink it off the ground." And they said, "Well, they think about it, and they say maybe rainwater is better." They've been doing it for 2,000 years. I mean, it goes back to Egyptian times, rainwater collection. So it's not something new. It's something that we've just got away from. Being that it's naturally distilled, there's no food or anything in like iron or something for bacteria to grow in. So rainwater, being so clean and so pure, no organisms can really thrive in it because there's nothing to feed on in it. So you have an indefinite shelf life inside in your tanks, as long as you keep your tanks clean. And we use first flush diverters that diverts the first flush off the roof onto the ground, and then we start collecting in our tanks. So we get on our roof, we collect about 20,000 gallons for every inch of rain. We have about 36,000 square feet. The 30-year rainfall is about 35 to 42 inches. We've gone through the worst droughts in history since 2009. We got 20 to 25 inches, and I still dropped about 200,000 gallons on the ground because I get 20,000 for every inch of rain. We modeled this, the amount of roof space that we have here, we could survive in this business with 10 inches a year. You give us 200,000 gallons basically, with 36,000 square feet. We have 138,000 gallons of holding capacity, and we can expand at any time we need it. We do 4x filtering. We do 4 times filtering. We start with a 25 micron filtering. We capture on the tanks in the back of our building, and then from there we transfer through a 25 micron filter into our 65,000 gallon tank. It's our main production tank, and from there we filter through our skid, our potable water skid. We go through a 20 micron carbon, and then we have a 2.35 microns, and we use UV and ozone, so no chemicals ever touch the water in this process. And ozone is used, is the #1 disinfectant for water, and is 15 times more reactive than chlorine. Chlorine is a disinfectant. We do a sterilization process with UV and ozone. Giardia and Crypto has a harder outer shell where chlorine cannot get in there to kill it, basically. UV and ozone does. So that's why we use that in our purification system. Mother Nature does the same thing. When you have lightning storms, you create ozone, and the sun gets a UV. So it's the same process as Mother Nature. Next from here, and we have the water never touches the ground, so we collect it in an organic way. So we have the organic harvesting of the rain. We can't say water they can't classify as organic, but we can collect the water organically, basically harvest it organically, since it never touches the ground. It's classified as a surface water, which surface water is the most dirtiest water you can have once it touches the ground. But since we collect it before it touches the ground, it actually is the cleanest. So the closest you get to the source of anything, the cleaner your water is, or anything that you are making. So no added chemicals is put into the water. It's naturally distilled by Mother Nature. The total dissolved solids, which is TDS, is next to 0. And with the ozone, it oxygenates the water as well. So you see an oxygenated water on the shelves. That's ozoned water, basically. So it's being that it's so pure, rainwater, it's water has an equilibrium factor. If you ever notice when it rains, everything greens up. And the reason that people say, oh, it's nitrogen in the rainwater. No, it's H2O. There's no N4. N4 is on the ground. That's your ammonias, basically. That's your fertilizers that go on the ground. What happens with rainwater being not an equilibrium factor, you have a high negative oxygen atom and 2 hydrogen atoms. On that oxygen atom, you have dangling bonds, which also bond to other chemicals or anything else it comes in contact with. Rainwater being so pure, it wants to find equilibrium with itself. It wants to absorb whatever it can. So when it does hits the ground, it starts absorbing the nutrients from the ground and absorbs into the plants and makes the plants much more healthier, and it feeds the plants. Where your groundwater is already bound with iron or calcium or whatever the groundwater that's filtering through, it is already an equilibrium factor. So when you water a plant, a lot of the plants don't need the iron and the calcium, and it just they stay hydrated, but they don't get fed. Waters, plants, animals, basically a slight DNA change. We're all the same. I tell people if they're taking medications or vitamins or whatever they're taking, is to talk to your doctor, especially with medications, because your absorption value with rainwater is much higher. So if you are drinking rainwater, your doctor could probably as much as reduce your medications by 50% because your absorption value is much higher in your body. Also, your cells absorb it much higher, much faster. So it doesn't matter what it comes in contact with, it absorbs, it just wants to find equilibrium, so it absorbs whatever it comes in contact with. So it is a higher uptake value. For a lot of people with medications, I do tell people that, hey, you need to talk to your doctor about that, because you can get too much of a dosage of certain medications. We do, our prices for rainwater is the same as everybody else. We do a lot of customer labels, a lot of private labels that we do. And here's some of the customer private labels we do. We have over 200 or 300 customer labels that we do, and we're adding more every day. This is the system that's behind the buildings right here. You see the black tall tanks right there. Those are 10,000 gallon tanks. We have 6 of those. The green ones are 3,000 gallon tanks. We put those in first when we first built the complex. And then a year later, we put in the 6 10,000 gallon tanks on another building, building A that's behind us over here. The upper right-hand screen is, these are pool filters basically, and we have 200 gallon a minute pumps that pump through this into our 65,000 gallon tank, which is our main production tank. Once it goes into our main production tank, then it goes through our operation skid, and you can see in the lower right-hand corner, you can see I have a 0.35 micron high intensity UV, another 0.35 micron, and then into the ozone system with oxygen concentrator, and it bubbles into the water. We also have a upper right, left-hand corner, we have a 300 gallon tank, which it also continues to bubble ozone into the water. We have over a 45-minute contact time before it even goes into production line, which the more contact time you have with ozone, the better off you are and the more sterilization you have. Being that our water is so clean, there's really nothing to kill in it. So it's just something that we have to have. We're a public water system for the state of Texas, so we have to have, and it's a consumer-based product, so we have to have this in place for all waters. But it's actually, you could actually drink the rainwater just by itself, and you wouldn't get sick from it at all. From there, we process through our line, which we'll show you in a little bit on our tour, and we'll show you the line running. We have dry rinsing systems in the upper left-hand corner. It's a dry rinsing system. It goes through a ionization bar, which takes a charge off the surface. Any surface has a surface charge, and this neutralizes the charge on the bottles, which it injects filtered air into the bottles and vacuums the bottles out. So it's a dry rinsing system. For there, it goes into a 12-head filler, and the 12-head filler is a circulating system which circulates the ozone and through the bottles, which actually sterilizes the bottles. And we also fill our bottles all the way to the top with very little air gap. If you notice in your stores, when you see bottled water or sodas, you'll see a big air gap. Well, that is more contamination area that you have inside of a bottle. The less you have of that, the better off you are. So we fill our bottles all the way to the top. And then it goes through our capper and then into our labeler. We also have an in-house labeler here that I can do quick jobs, 10, 5, 10, 15 cases for a special event or for proofing out labels for customers. And so we have that available. Once we go into more production, then we have our labels made at a printing facility. So water flows through the, it evaporates up into the and condenses into the hydrological cycle, and then it comes down as rain. So when it comes down there, it's very distilled, naturally it's distilled water. So the process of Mother Nature, when it gets, the more lightning and the more, like we have in Texas, the more ozone is created and the more purified and cleaner the water is actually. And then we have, from the sun, we have the UV. So, the potable water use, you kind of figure about 35 to 50 gallons per person per day in a home when you're doing your water capture. And depending, for every 1,000 square feet of roof space, you get 600 gallons for every inch of rain. So that's the formula that you can use. So if you have a 2,000 square foot home, you get about 1,200 gallons for every inch of rain. We usually recommend on something like that about a 5,000 gallon holding tank, because as you're filling that tank, you're using it as well. So you don't have to have large capacity of storage unless you really want to. So below you can see that the home uses, you're flushing your toilets for your bathing, your laundry, your dishes, and you use about 5% of drinking and cooking. So from drinking and cooking, you use very little. It's mostly from toilets and bathing and laundry. Fresh water is pretty scarce. 75% of the Earth's surface is covered with water. 97% is total volume water available as salt water. The remaining 3% is considered fresh water, and about 2% of fresh water is locked into polar caps. So you have about 1% of fresh water on the Earth. And like Norm was talking about, when you do drill a well, you do have contamination. Some people have sulfur wells. Sometimes you don't hit water at all. Around Bastrop area, we're pretty lucky. We do have the water table about 200 feet to 300 feet in depth. So, and it's fairly good water, except for certain areas. And we do have some pretty contaminated water, which I do put custom systems in for rainwater capture. So, so there's a formula down at the bottom. You can see that 1,000 square feet, 623 gallons for every 1 inch of rain. I say about 600 because you lose some in the capture process. Most of our water is coming from aquifers or groundwaters. A little more than 50% of the population depends on groundwaters for drinking. Those are becoming polluted all the time and contaminated. Up in North Texas, you have arsenic, and in different areas you have a lot of different contaminants and more water is being contaminated around the United States and around the world. So rainwater is like the way to go. It is very clean to begin with. A lot less electricity is used. It's point of use. You don't have to pump it to your house. It's all there. So you see the population, and the population is growing. Texas, the legislature, water is the #1 issue in Texas because we're growing so rapidly in population. So the Texas legislature is trying to figure out what to do. A lot of my water classes that I go to, they're still trying to figure out what to do. They don't know. They don't believe that rainwater is an option because they just don't think it's enough. which I think they're wrong. And the population needs to do more rainwater capture in areas that we do get rain. The less rain you have per year, the bigger structure you want to have. So that's what you take in consideration when you're figuring on a rainwater system and the amount of rainfall they get per year. We're taking out much more groundwater than we're putting back in Texas right now. The consumption is 9.4 million acre square feet with major aquifers, and we're San Antonio is trying to steal water from Austin. Everybody's trying to take water from everybody else. They're trying to do pipelines. They're trying to, they haven't built a reservoir in many years. But the problem is when you start taking water from all these different areas, the aquifers start decreasing, and then all your ground wells have to be put in deeper for the water. Desalinization. The freshwater desalinization, world's population of 7 billion, we got about 4 trillion gallons of rainfall per day, 70% return to evaporation. And water conservation should be taken very seriously, especially for drinking water. Desalinization seems limitless, but the cost is very, very high for desaling. And there's about 15,000 desal plants operating worldwide, probably more by now. But now the cost of desalinization prevents for widespread use of salt water because it's energy intensive. Desalinization is double and quadruple the cost of treating fresh water. And I have a Class C license to be able to work in a water plant. And like the water plant up by Lake Travis, you have to use a lot of chemicals and a lot of filtration to filter that water. And the cost is very, very high. If it wasn't a municipal source, nobody could afford it. The one thing about rainwater, simple ozones, simple UV, simple filtering, paper filtering system can be used, and it's very, very low cost, and it's point of use. So the cost of converting salt water ranges from $3 to $7 per 1,000 gallons. Y'all are paying pennies per gallon for water right now. So desal is very expensive. Rainwater is very clean. It's absolutely, and it's a free source of water. Total control over your water supply, ideal for cities and restricted areas. I do have Anglin, Texas wants me to go and talk to them about putting in rainwater systems for the municipal sources as well. So we're looking to expand that into municipal areas on large scale projects. If you've seen out in by Weberville, the solar projects that are out there, they have acres and acres of solar. Well, all that solar can be used to collect water off of, and which is not being done, which could be used as a municipal source as well. So there is a lot of areas that could be used for rainwater capture that's not being used at this point. People say that with capturing rainwater, we're robbing the ground of absorption into the aquifers. The amount of buildings compared to the amount of open land in the United States is very, very small. The amount of buildings compared to open space. So the recharge is no problem for rainwater if you're capturing. If we captured in all buildings, if you were to capture all the water off the buildings in LA, you'd be able to supply 2/3 of all the water for the county, the whole county of LA for the year. For 2/3 of the year, you'd be able to collect. So think about how many buildings are in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin. It's a no-brainer. We could have more water than you could deal with if you were to collect.
Anyone approached Bastrop or Smith, so they do the solar panels, but you almost get a twofer.
Yeah.
Have you approached either of those guys? Say, hey, about
Well, I'm working with the Greenport Airport.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm involved. I'm doing all the water for them. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. When they put in solar, that's what I'm going to collect on. So that's my municipal project that I'm working with them on. So so here's all. It's all the different things you can use for the water. I mean, it's for backup. It's also good to have your wells as well. But utilize your rainwater as much as possible, and do a mixture if you can, and use as much rainwater as you can. What are the uses for rainwater? Everything. You can use it washing vehicles, pets, fountains, fish ponds, pools, everything. Rainwater, water is classified as an acid. People don't realize water is a universal solvent. So neutral in the pH scale is 7. Rainwater runs about anywhere from 5.5 to 6.5, depending on how much lighting you have and turbulence you have in the atmosphere. But rainwater, and the reason it's that way, it's acidic because it's doesn't have anything added to it. Whenever you do alkaline, you have to add minerals or you have to add different things to it to bring the pH up in water. People say that, hey, you need high alkaline water. You couldn't drink enough alkaline water to bring your alkalinity up in your body. You get alkalinity from foods, from vegetables and so forth. What you want to have is with those alkaline foods, you want to be drinking rainwater because the absorption value of that alkalinity in your body with rainwater is much more efficient. And that's how you bring your optimum alkalinity up in your body, by good vegetable foods and rainwater because of the absorption value. So there's just multiple uses you can have it for, but it's very healthy for you as well. I've had a lot of people call me after drinking rainwater for some time that they're much more healthier, they're in better shape. A lot of diseases and problems that they've had has gone away. And I believe what's happening is your body is being more efficient. Your body will heal itself if it's in good shape. So what we're finding, I believe, in what I've seen in cancer patients and everywhere else, that they've gotten a lot better with the rainwater because their body is in much tuned condition and much better shape to fight off diseases. How much rain can we collect in this area? For 30-year average, we get 32 to 40 inches. As you get over to the coast, you get about 60 to 70 inches of rain. And into Louisiana, 78 to 100 plus inches of rain because of all the hurricanes coming in. So you can see from this map in this blue area, that's where you get your high rainfall in up by Oregon and so forth. But all up the East Coast, all of this could be rainwater capture here, all the way to the Midwest. Very simple systems can be put in. The systems that I have here, we have first flush diverters that come off the roof that goes into a first flush. Then from there you start collecting. From there you go into your home and plumb into your home. So just need your cistern, first flush systems, and PVC piping, and you're good to go. And pumps, whatever pumps delivery pumps you want to use. And just simple water filtration is all you need for the home systems. For the homes, there's no really restrictions for what you can do. You can put a filter on it, or you can put a point of use filter wherever you drink water. But the water being so clean as it is, you can shower, do your clothes, toilets or whatever. It does not have to be filtered going into your water. Cost, non-potable systems range anywhere from 10,000, 30,000 installed, not including the roof. So a lot of people already have their gutters. The gutters is your biggest cost, basically. 5,000 gallon tank runs about $3,000 or $4,000 basically, and then your PVC and plumbing to your home. So you have different types of tanks. You have polypro tanks that are food grade tanks. We also have metal tanks out here they're lined with a poly material, and you can professionally install gutters, about $12 a linear foot. So pre-filter systems, $50 to $800. Pump costs about $400 to $1,000 depending on the pumps you're going to be using. And so potable water systems, you can get away with fairly reasonable cost compared to drilling a well. Like Norm says, $14,000 to drill a well. You could come into a lot less expensive doing a rainwater capture system. There you have it.
There you go.
Hey. Now we can tour the plant.
Let me do one thing here. It would be interesting to, now we're gonna convert operations, so when we'll walk around your computer, I'm gonna log in to my phone, and I'm going to become a participant. Okay, stand by, so I'll be a participant. We're recording this meeting. And, so.
You want to do it here?
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna turn